This is an exciting day, guys, because I am finally going to put in the ground my beehive stand. This is a stand that I built out of just a couple 4x4s. I cut a couple long ways, and then I've got about 4 going crossways where I'm actually going to sit my beehives down. They'll actually latch down to the stand. And then I just have some steel pipes coming out the bottom, and these have, I guess, you know, the flanges that you would put on the ground at the base of these, and that's so that when I put this in the ground, it's going to be pretty gosh darn sturdy. It's not going to move that much. If there's a storm that comes through here, the wind's not going to just pick this thing up and move it out of the ground. And my location that I chose for this, I'm up near the road, which I don't like, but this is also where a lot of our gardens are. So we have a lot of these eastern red cedars up around this spot, and we have a ton just going down the road up there. So the red cedars offer a great windbreak. Most of the time our prevailing winds from a hurricane come through this direction, or, you know, kind of wrap around. But I wanted to make sure that I'm blocking from my hives the best I can. And so right here I've got a red cedar on one side, a red cedar behind me. There's literally a wall of red cedars growing in along the roadway there. And then directly to my left we have an apple orchard. I call it an orchard, but there's really only about 4 apple trees in there right now. I'd like to have, see, 2, 4, 6, 8, about 8 trees between the road and where they stop. And then behind the camera, behind you, is where we're eventually planning on having a greenhouse. We've got room for about a 40 to 60 foot greenhouse if we want to put it there. And then going back down the other way towards the house is where we have our raised bed garden. We have my in-ground garden. And so everything is within a baseball throw of this spot for these bees that I want to cross-pollinate. So that's why I'm putting them here. It's south-facing, so that's nice. They're going to be facing the southward side. The sun comes up just over the trees to my left and crosses over that way. In some regards, this red cedar to my right is going to help block the afternoon sun. The south-facing hives with the sun coming up just over those trees is going to help warm them and get them going sooner in the mornings, as well as keep them warmer during the winter time. Now, the other thing that I may end up doing, we do have fences around this area, but depending on what kind of pests get in here, I may want to just add a little bit of fencing, but I could easily pull that off of the road fence and kind of down around here if I wanted to, or I could just, I don't know, build a little cage around them here, but I'm hoping I won't have to do that. So what I thought I'd do is show you guys how I'm going to set this whole thing up, because it's more than just putting this in the ground. I'm going to create a small little habitat for these guys here, something that's easy to keep clean and easy to maintain. But first, let's get this in there so that we can get started on the other good stuff. So I'm just going to come through and at least dig up a little spot near each leg so I know where I'm going with this thing. You know, it's February here, and we don't really need this until mid-March to be ready. So this could be a little bit of a project that I film over a period of time here. But we want this ready by mid-March to try and introduce a nuke or 2 to our hives. I think it's easier if you're a new beekeeper to start out with 2 functioning hives, but nukes are expensive. I do have 2 hives. What I'm hoping is that I can get one of my hives started and then come back a little later and add to it. Okay, so I've marked where my legs are going to go in the ground, and I want this to be relatively even as I put it in there. So let's go ahead and dig these out. It's also recommended that you don't go too high with your hive stands, because you have to lift heavy boxes full of nice, yummy honey. So I'll admit, my hive stand might seem a little high when I'm done with what I'm about to do, but there's a reason for that. Part of my plans of building this little habitat here is to bring in some rock and soil from the outside. Now that I've got this dug into the ground about the way I wanted it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just try and get this as level as possible. Right now it seems like the right side is just a bit deeper than the left. I need to dig it in at least 4, maybe 5 inches there. And then on coming front to back, I have a slight dip towards the front, which is almost perfect. I want a slight dip towards the front so that water doesn't build up in my hives. So I'm gonna just try and take this side down about 4 or 5 inches. Pull this out. Just take this down just a little bit. I feel like when it comes to digging holes, I always dig them faster than I anticipate. All right, I think that'll work. I've got this just at a slight slant towards the front where the hives are going to be facing to help any excess water run off out of the hives. Of course, bees have a way when the hive is healthy of keeping them dry, but you still don't want to set them up for failure by having the hive tilted back a little bit where water just runs back in there and stands. So I've built this with a slight angle forward, because you definitely want it either flat or slightly forward. Do a little better on this side here, I think. Getting that just a little more forward. There we go. This side's perfect. The next step of this is going to be building out my base. So I mentioned that I'm gonna have I'm gonna build a small little habitat back here. I wanna have fresh water for them. There's a lot of things that I wanna supply my bees with. I also don't want to have to mow this area where the beehive is. So my plan is to restrict weed growth through this area down just in front of the hives and give myself plenty of room to be able to walk completely around the hives without being on a tilty hillside. And I'm going to build the front up where it goes downhill with some rocks, and then fill this area in up here where the hives are with probably some gravel, things to help suppress the weeds, and then I'll top it off with some fresh planting soil. So when this is all done, we'll have a nice kind of flat area up here right around the hives where I can easily access the hives, work with them, have plenty of space, and keep it clean. Cleanliness is important, especially with ants and all the things that could get up in here. So this is just the very basic first step.